Hello party, my name is Bhumika Zhaveri. I am a life, career and relationship coach with lots and lots of qualifications and NLP. However, I will stick to my life experiences as much as qualifications when it comes to these videos. So if you are looking for inspiration, life hacks, advice, feel free to like, share and subscribe my videos. On a weekly basis there'll be something new coming out, sometimes more than once a week, and but at least once a week. And do make sure to subscribe if you are really looking for honest advice and guidance and really just some blunt conversations about topics that most people want to not really indulge in. So to kick off today's topic, I wanted to speak about relationships and how to survive in relationships during the COVID. If you do see me looking in that direction, that's purely because I've got some notes and I want to make sure that I stick to the science and the subject and factually discuss it, and so I don't miss anything. So I've got some notes there that I'll be looking into every now and again. And if you do see me getting distracted, that's purely because my cat is lingering around, and often she tries to she's very shy, but she will try and come and, get on me. So, if I'm distracted, why that is. I also tend to do my videos in one click. So there is no it's very genuine. It's very authentic. It is what it is, basically. I don't do several takes or anything like that. So there will be some funny goof ups, which I hope will keep you entertained through the video. So let's start, right? So now most people who are in a committed or early stage relationship have felt great about having a partner during this lockdown season, and especially with the whole isolation that got kicked in since March. However, this time has been extremely difficult for single folks as well as those coupled who have not really had a genuine relationship built on honesty, trust, transparency. And I'm not trying to be harsh here, but I am trying to be real. If your relationship hasn't been the right thing for you, the lockdown has brought it out in some way. And so it has been an extremely stressful time for many people, especially for families where kids are involved. But at the same time, it has also been quite a refreshing time for many more couples who've actually made their relationships even more successful in this time. So let's dig deeper into what's happening currently with relationships during the COVID time. So one of the things that's happening is a lot of turbo relationships are coming up. Now, turbo relationships in itself, the name suggests, is something that happens quite quickly, is instant almost, and this mainly happens with new couples who, as soon as they got hit by COVID, they'd barely known each other for weeks. They suddenly decide to move in together or take their relationship to the next steps quite quickly. It intensifies. So this is a turbo relationship. And relationships that are formed around loss environment or pandemic environments and global situations, usually post-lockdown or post the situation or post the pandemic, will dry up, and it's a bubble that will burst basically, and it won't have the gravity that it would normally if you had met under normal circumstances. So that's one thing to bear in mind about turbo relationships. But what it also means is that even if you have met somebody pre-lockdown, and let's say it did become a turbo relationship, it did intensify, if you are genuinely interested in building a lifelong relationship with that person, just make sure that you dig deep and get intimate for the right reasons with a lot of integrity. Now, intimacy brings me to our next point, which is sex. Now, sex itself is not intimacy. Intimacy can include sex, but sex by no means has to be intimate, and we all know that, but that's a topic for another day. So focusing on intimacy itself, there are a ton of things that you can do together, couples, to make things intimate and make it grow, basically, even if you're a young couple or early couple, or someone who's been married for 10 years, 20 years, for God, God knows how long. So there are ways to make things intimate during the lockdown, especially when you're forced together to stay in one place, you know, with the isolation and certain social distancing measures. One thing I will say is the couples that are not co-located have often sort of not respected the rules of social distancing and not been sensible around it, and actually affected each other's health in an adverse manner. So just be sensible about how you're approaching these things. Obviously things are relaxed now, so that's not too much of a stress. But so what I really want to do is give you, there are tons of pros and cons about having relationships during the sort of lockdown, but there are also things that you can do to make it a good relationship, long-term relationship. And even if you've been coupled for long-term, you know, these are uncalled for times. So some of these tips will help you. The first thing I would say is to spend time apart. So even if you can't go to your gym or out with your mates or on your girls' holiday, you still can spend time apart, especially if you're living together. The most important thing is to have a spare room or a room dedicated or some hours dedicated to yourself on a weekly basis. If you have kids, obviously that makes things more interesting, but that does not mean that you cannot give yourself some time. You and your partner have really got to learn to work as a team during these times to make sure that you're able to give each other the space that you need to rest and recover. Surprisingly, couples who work as a team like this and give each other some much needed time apart actually grow strong a lot more than couples who are constantly on each other's backs. So just make sure that, you know, you are taking care of yourself in these tough and strange times. Now, self-care does not mean you have to neglect your responsibilities or you're neglecting your pets and your kids. No, this is why the team effort is really, really important. And you have to sort of give yourselves that time. Now, whether it's for your partner to play video games once a week, you know, for a couple hours, or for you to sit down and read or just have a chill in the bath with your wine, whatever it is, make sure that you do get a couple hours a week to stay apart, get your head straight, and really just respect each other, because you will be stronger for it together. The second thing is completely opposite, is what you also want to do is spend time together. Really, yes. I mean, here you want to sort of spend at least a couple hours to have one date night or one activity during a week which you as a couple do together, whether it's watching a movie, whether it's cooking dinner and, you know, having kids do their own entertainment for a couple hours, or whether it's a games night. Now, if it's appropriate age, then get your kids involved in that as well. But you know that there is something going on here that is special just for you. Or, you know, set up some entertainment for your kids in the other room and just really spend some time focused on each other. What really works for me and my husband is games night. We absolutely love having our games night, and we both get quite competitive. So we turn on some music and just make it really chill. So there is no, we take that edge off competition, because he can get very competitive and he's a bad loser. But at the same time, there are other things that I like. So, for example, I love it when he reads to me. So we do spend some time every now and again where he just picks up one of my favorite books and he will read to me. So find your own things that you like to do together. If you don't have many things in common, then find things that you can do alternatively. So 1 week for her, 1 week for him, sort of, you know, so make each other a priority, compromise, and that brings me to the next step, which is communicate and adapt. Now, in relationships, we all know that communication is quite key, but what level of communication are we talking about? You know, the communication that happens formally, the jokes and the laughs, informally, I mean, and the jokes and the laughs, they're all well and good, but communication on a deep level where you're able to address each other's stressors and find, you know, some compromises is extremely important to develop a deep and meaningful relationship that is going to last through decades. Okay, communication doesn't mean that you're only there to speak. Be empathetic and also have the willingness to listen, because that is equal part of communication, is both of you are communicating your stresses. These times have brought out a lot of pressures, you know, people losing jobs, to financial difficulties, to kids staying home all day, and to new couples having to sort of, you know, spend a lot of time together whether they wanted to or not. So communication and obviously being flexible and compromising is extremely key. One of the things that I often hear is, you know, that if I have to change for my partner, then that's not the right person for me. That is completely bullshit, and it's a fairy tale concept where you're actually not, where you're denying one of the most basic human existent needs, which is human beings evolve every single day. We change. Change is the only constant for human beings. And so if you are not going to communicate, adapt, and, you know, sort of be willing to change yourself and some of the things you do and you don't do for your partner, then you're actually getting, you're actually staying stuck and not helping yourself or your partner. So communication and change and adaptability and compromises are very key. And change is very important. Change is very natural. So please get out of that fairy tale thinking of, oh, if I have to change, then he's not the one for me or she's not the one for me. No, change is an absolute must, but the good kind of change. Which brings me to the fourth point, is get real. And by this, I mean, especially for the new charged couples, please get real with yourselves and with your partners. You seem to notice these days that everyone has bits of secrets and bits of information they're not sharing with their partners. And people may say, well, do you have to be absolutely honest and real and transparent for a good relationship? And I would say, yes, you do, because long-term relationships require deep understanding of each other, require transparency, require an understanding of who you are individually, but also who your partner is and what they've been through in life. So you can basically be a good team together, support each other and so on, all the good things. So you have to learn to communicate and get real and be honest about everything and be transparent. No secrets is my policy. And that's worked really well with me and my husband. There are also long-term couples, and there are stories that I've been hearing now where they are not, things are coming out of woodworks, basically. Affairs are coming out, you know, things are coming out of the woodwork because maybe they're working apart too much or whatever the reason, but there isn't enough intimacy in this sense where there is transparency, there is trust, and that is extremely key. So get real with yourselves and get real with your partners. Trust is extremely important, and trust can only be built long-term with transparency. So please get real and get honest with your partners. At any stage of your relationship, you can introduce this. And finally, this brings me to a very difficult fifth point, but very important point, which is leave amicably. Breakups and divorces are not unheard of. In fact, there is a statistic that says, and I'm going to read it out, it says over 26% of couples have come to the decision after years of marriage due to lockdown to break up or go through a divorce. And this is quite natural because suddenly now you've found yourself living with someone 24/7, and if there are things that come out of the woodwork, you know, like affairs or some form of abuse or just like completely different likes and dislikes, and you're not able to find a common ground, then you have to leave amicably, and you have to sort of learn to understand yourself and love yourself before you expect that you can find a good relationship or you can be happy with someone else. Now, I know a lot of couples stay in unhappy and unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships, purely because they're afraid that they may not find someone else. Well, let me tell you this, as someone who's broken up several times, you always find someone, but you will only find the right person when you have learned to be happy alone, when you have learned to to love yourself, self-care, and really just be honest with yourself, you know. But if you are consistently looking for someone else to make you happy, it is not going to happen. Now, for relationships where there is any form of abuse or toxicity or codependency, which can happen a lot in the turbo relationships, my advice is to find some time to spend apart and look up some useful resources. I'm going to share some help links, especially for domestic abuse. Please refer to them. Please get in touch with people if you need help. So all in all, I know that my top 5 things that I've told you to do are not an exhaustive list, and if you go on Google, there'll be tons and tons of advice. But my aim today was to make sure that you get this advice as honestly as possible, and you do make use of some of the links, especially where domestic abuse is concerned. There are a lot of stats out there where mental health is key, and a lot of people are suffering with domestic abuse as well. So you want to make sure that you are keeping safe and you are being sensible for yourself, your partner, and obviously your kids and pets if you have them. So I hope that you found this video useful. I would love it if you could like, share and subscribe for new updates. And if there is any questions you have, feel free to leave them in the comments. And for next time, if you would want me to focus on any particular topic, feel free to again leave them in the comments and I'll pick them up as and when I can. Thank you and be safe. Bye-bye.